Money. The game everyone plays, but few win. Extracting the knowledge from the top 1%. And teaching you the ever-changing rules of play. It's time to level up and take control of the money game.
Let's talk money.
Big money.
Yes! Welcome back to the money game. We got a personal friend in the house personally live today. What's up, Puck?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Dude, good to have you, brother. It's been a minute since you've been in KC, too.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to get some barbecue in and see all the surroundings here in KC, bro. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Be sick. You brought the hoodie. You probably thought it was going to be a little chillier.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be 75 today and then 20 tonight, so it's...
KC will do that.
Utah is still a little bipolar, but not quite like this.
Well, for all you guys who don't know, Puck and I have worked together, almost 8 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
But you've been in the game for 15 plus years?
My 19th year.
19.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What's crazy is I remember recruiting you at a BYU basketball game.
I remember this.
And this was 8 years ago. And then
I remember this.
Tonight we're going to the BYU-Kansas game, and hopefully BYU doesn't lose by 30 tonight, right?
Which... funny part of that, I don't know if you remember this, but a big part of my recruiting story was actually a big focus of what this show is even about. Financial literacy, financial academics, business acumen. One of the reasons I came to Vivint was because you guys presented the holistic approach of the reality of Vivint in the marketplace. Yeah. That was 8 years ago. We weren't public.
Yeah.
We've since gone public, been acquired. You've made a buku amount of money. I've made a little bit amount of money.
Yeah, it's been good for everyone.
It's a good fit.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and we're a lot more financially secure today than we were 8 years ago. We were selling you the pipe dream, and now it's like we're living the dream.
Back when it was LTIP, now it's actual shares.
Yeah, no, it's trackable and it's real.
Yeah.
And so it's cool, but it's crazy how it's come full circle. Started at a basketball game, and here we are tonight.
No, it's fun. Well, for a lot of you guys that don't know, Puck's been in my industry for a long time. And so introing you to kind of the audience, obviously you are your official title, VP Partner of Sales at Vivint, run the Triumph division. I don't have my Triumph gear on, but I'm repping Vivint today.
Yeah, love it.
What we want to cover today, dude, I want to go into, because I know your story really well, but I think it's super applicable to a lot of people for a few reasons. One, the way you look at finances, but as well the way that you developed your career and why you developed your career.
Yeah.
So I know this, but for everyone listening, as you got into sales, I know originally this wasn't your intended career.
Yeah, no.
And you had a different outlook. Can you explain to people as you got in, what was the reason you got in and what were you trying to do?
Yeah, great question. I'll go through this as quickly as I can. So I served a 2-year mission knocking doors in Venezuela, and I had a mentor there, our leader, our mission president for the LDS church. He was an orthodontist. Yep. So I'm like, I kind of want to be like him. He's a good father, made a lot of money, investments, real estate, all this stuff. And so I went to school, pre-dental, took all those credits. Mm-hmm. And when I was going to school, I was taking a ton of hours of credits. I was busting my butt, waiting tables at P.F. Chang's, Chinese restaurant.
Serving.
And I remember, serving a lot of people, and a lot of people were doing door-to-door. And back then, it wasn't as clear, Ty. Everyone's like, I'm making so much money and this and that. And it was like, no one was public. No one had a track record.
Space.
This is 2006. Yes. I mean, there was one company driving Hummers and they had stickers. I'm like, dude, this Hummers were cool way cool back then. I'm like, this is too good to be true. But I remember just meeting some people that they looked trustworthy, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go try it. And I remember going out my very first day. I didn't have a lot of training. I'd kind of decided right before the summer. But one thing happened to me that first day that changed my trajectory of my entire life. I made more money that day. I sold 2 accounts.
Yeah.
But I made about what I would have made in 2 or 3 weeks in the restaurant. And I'm like, that opened up my entire just perspective on life. I'm like, everyone talks about leveraging. Hormozy talks about leveraging, but I leverage my time. I'm like, I could have spent 3 weeks in a restaurant or 1 day out on the doors. And I'm like, how hard could this be? 1 day bought me time, and I don't even know what I'm doing. Just think if I could bust it and then go learn the skills and dominate, and the rest has been kind of history.
And I want to dive into that for a sec, because I think we recruit a lot of people in this scenario, and I think this is a super common trend that's becoming more and more applicable to kids today.
Yeah.
They get into school because all they know is what they've been exposed to.
Yeah.
You said, I want to be an orthodontist because at least it sounds like in your eyes, that was a level of success that you believe this route can supply me an outcome.
That's right.
And then eventually you start figuring out sales. At what point, as you're doing sales, going to dental school, are you realizing, hey, I'm more attracted to the outcome I thought I was going to achieve than the actual vehicle itself?
Yeah, good question. And everyone, like, you know, I have a degree. A lot of our leaders in Triumph at Vivint have degrees and et cetera. And a lot of people are like, oh, school sucks or whatever. Well, what school taught me is what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I kind of learned that. But when you start making dentist-like money, when I was growing up, it's like, dude, you had to be a lawyer or a doctor to make good money. And now it's like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that just kill it, et cetera. But
a lot of ways.
I was like, all right, I took all the pre-meds, pre-dental up to the DAT. I didn't take the DAT, but I was at a crossroads where it's like, all right, you're going to have to go to $500,000 in debt to go to school. And then it's like, you're going to go grind for 4 to 8 years and go live in, you know, a dental school, get accepted, et cetera. And then like go claw your way, build a business, claw your way out of debt. And when I started making dentist-like money and I didn't have to put any money into that, I'm like, dude, there is absolutely no freaking risk on this. I'm making money. I didn't have to go into debt. I didn't have to go to dental school. I didn't love the school. I just liked the lifestyle that in my eyes and my perception that a dentist, you know, the lifestyle that they lived.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really important thing for people to understand, because I'm sitting down with a lot of kids right now, and you are as well, right? And I think people get so focused on the vehicle when what they're really, really trying to achieve is an outcome.
That's right.
They want a lifestyle, they want an income, they want a discretionary level of living, they want freedom, and they want control, and they just go like all in down a route to the closest thing they can see. But you all of a sudden, I've been in this world too, get exposed to there's a lot of ways that aren't shortcuts, but allow you to leverage your effort better. And I think sales is one of those ones that the academic route, for whatever reason, doesn't like super hyper focus on. Yeah. So I know obviously you're dating someone, you get married, you have parents. I can imagine, and a lot of people listening probably are thinking about this, you're going down a pre-dental route. That's like a pretty prestigious route. But you're also knocking doors in the summer, making good income. How does that psychological debate go with the people in your circle when you come to fruition with, I think I'm going to go do this for real and give up the title?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I proposed to my wife. She's thinking she's getting engaged to a up-and-coming dentist. Her dad, my father-in-law, is like, hey, I remember our first couple years, him asking, so what about dental school? Like, you're dragging my daughter all across the country, et cetera. He did stop asking those questions. Once I paid off my home, and it was like 2 years within our marriage, and then once I paid for him to come to Disneyland, they stopped asking those questions. Neighbors, though, at the beginning would ask me and my wife, like in a condescending way, like, what does your husband do? Like, is he still going to school? Like, is it just a summer job? And it's just an unorthodox way to go make excellent money and provide for our family and then have your money work for you. And they stop asking questions. At first they make fun of it, and then they start getting a little bit like jealous, like, well, you have a lot of free time. You guys are traveling all over the world. You're doing cool charity trips. You guys are, living a great lifestyle. And I was living a dentist-like lifestyle because I just kind of doubled down and made some sacrifices and really understood that I wasn't going to be a great dentist, but I'm a competitive sucker. And that's what sales can bring, the competitive juices out of you. And there's no ceiling on what you can earn in sales, which is amazing.
It is amazing. It's interesting because as you're speaking, I know we have a lot of young men, like college students, 25 to 35 is a lot of the listeners. I want to dig a little deeper on that just because I know, like, you make it sound like it was super easy, but I know there was probably moments of doubt. There was probably like, dude, what am I doing? Am I going to send this? Am I going to let go of this? How did you identify, hey, this is realistically something I should go double down on? How do you tune people out? Because that's a lot of these kids who are chasing something right now, the exposure is wide to entrepreneurism and sales. I meet with college kids every day who are losing faith in like, hey, I'm going to go be a corporate finance guy forever and do 9 to 5. What if that's not for me? How do I deal with parents or mentors or anyone who isn't exposed to this world?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there that we could unpack. I think, if you and I if we were going to go invest money in an opportunity, and then we're like, holy crap, 8 months later, I'm going to, unpark my money, pull it out, and just go invest in this. And then the next shiny opportunity comes out. We would never get ahead. Our money would never compound or anything. And I think my advice to anyone that's trying to do anything big is get out of your own way. Don't give in to the temptation where there's always attractive, opportunities and options and whatever. I've never met anyone that's like, dude, here's how I made it. I just jumped around with every shiny object and just did whatever. The wealthiest people that I know in the door-to-door space are people that, put their flag down and just they grinded year in, year out. And, that eighth wonder of the world we talk about, there's compound interest, but it's also compounding effort. Yeah. If you and I go pick up and go start another door-to-door company or whatever it is, go in another sales, all the momentum that we've built year over year, we lose it. We got to start from scratch. The reputation we built, when people leave, they don't bring their downline and their sales, et cetera. And so compounding efforts, I think we underestimate how valuable that is. Like, just for example, I never in a million years, I remember like if I could make 30 grand in a summer, I'd be set. And then it's like, holy crap, if I can make 100 grand, if I could buy a house, if I could pay off a home. And I never would have thought I'd be looking back 19 years. I didn't get into door-to-door thinking I'm going to be a door-to-door guy, but now it's like, well, I want what you want. I'd love to. Can I tell you a story? So
yeah, absolutely.
The owner of the Jazz, I live in the same city with him, and I go to the same country club as him, et cetera. And I ran into him last summer, and I was just talking to him, and the Jazz pay for a scholarship. It's really cool, and for underprivileged, like diverse people that just don't come from a lot. And Asael, who we work with, his sister got a full ride scholarship to BYU, and she had great grades, but just, underprivileged, not the same opportunity as others. And I was just saying, hey man, that had a massive impact on that family. Like, that's so cool what you guys are doing, giving back to the community, et cetera. He said, it's great. And started talking to him like, it's great what you've been able to achieve. And he's like, thank you for saying that. He's like, a lot of people come up to me, they don't know my story, and they're like, wow, you're an overnight success. Holy cow, like, how did you become a billionaire to go afford the Jazz in your 40s? Like, he's a young dude with young kids. He says, what's so crazy is people don't realize it took me 25 years of grinding, sticking to the same dream, all in every day. There's haters, there's critics, there's other opportunities. I have other buddies posting that they're killing it, jumping around. And he's like, I know Todd Peterson, it's the same thing. Everyone comes up to us acting like we're overnight successes, but we've been doing this for 25, 30 years. And that's the secret of success, being consistent. And that would be any advice I have for anyone, staying the course and looking at, is there someone at my opportunity that I want to be like? And then just kind of, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, just follow them.
Just keep replicating.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting you bring that up, because I think my generation and younger is crazy obsessed with the shiny object. Yep. It's like, what next? How much faster can I get it, or whatever? Nobody wants to pay any dues. But every single company I look at in our space, in any space, the person who's there's the longest is making the most money.
Well,
they're the most stable.
Think of an investment. It's like, well, how did you...
If you're in the market the longest, you made
how
did
you
get
return. Compound interest? Well, it didn't start picking up till year 10, 11, 20, whatever it is. And it's the same thing with the career and an opportunity. And so many young kids in this industry are asking the wrong questions. They're like, what's the best override? What's the best red line? What's the best percentage? And really what I would be asking if I was them would be, well, is this company going to be in business for the next 5 years? Most companies go under within 5 years. It's like if you're at a company and you're like, I'm going to make $500,000 or whatever it is. It's like, well, did anyone make $500,000 in your company last year?
Yeah, what's the lid?
How long have they been around? And it's like, what's crazy about Vivint is, we've had people making millions of dollars a year. The top earner last year made $6 million. It's like, my goodness.
No, that's something I want to talk about too, because you bring up an interesting thing. I think a lot of people, and we talked about this in my organization, a lot of people are super obsessed with the like sexy entrepreneur idea. But the reality is, like, most people really aren't cut out to do it, and they don't understand the stakes and the liability and the stress and the overhead. You've built where you're now, and hopefully you don't mind me saying this, but like you're earning over 7 figures a year as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have no liability, legal, overhead, expenses. That's a pretty like
No
crazy.
risk.
Yeah. Like
Zero
it's,
risk.
it's a pretty unbelievable thing where you've developed that, but you're also not on salary. Like somebody's not telling you what you're worth.
Yeah.
You're a 7-figure commission earner inside a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
So for you, I guess, just talk to me a little bit as you've built a career here, as you've seen other stuff. How have you stayed away from shiny object syndrome? How have you stayed the course and kept focused?
Good question. I think, there's the old saying, he who chases two rabbits ends up catching neither of them. And I think just understanding my superpowers, and I think it's hard for a lot of people want to, wear a million different hats. And for me, it's like, what am I good at? What can I do? And just understanding the simplicity of, if I do these 3 or 4 things consistently day in, day out, this will be my outcome. And, in my role, it's if I recruit, if I sell, if I build, and kind of retain, if I do those 4 things really well, then the outcome will be great. And a lot of we're at a spot, at least in our opportunity, where we have so many different streams of income. If you look at professional athletes,
truly crazy.
You look at professional athletes, it's crazy to see what Michael Jordan earned playing basketball versus what he made in his entire career. His net worth's $2 billion, but he only made under $1 billion in just playing, But you look at these athletes, why they want to go to a big market. Well, they want other options. They want other streams of income. And what's crazy about Vivint is we have lots of streams of income. And my 2 favorite are the passive incomes, right? Yeah. We have stock. We have residual. And it's that's mailbox money. That's money being made in our sleep, which is very, very rare. If I was giving any advice to anyone, it's go work for a place where you can make money when you produce. Mm-hmm. You can make money on someone you bring in. When they produce, you'll make money on that. And then there's passive upside where there's residuals where you can get that monthly, sell a product, the lifetime value is long.
Perpetuity.
That's right. And then lastly, the stock, the upside.
Yeah.
18 months ago, our stock at Vivint, as we were public, was $3.
It's 53 today.
Yeah. And it got converted and purchased. So there was an exit there. And now it's at $53. And I mean, that's where, generational wealth has been made within stock and then residual. And it's crazy how we're at where we're at. We're all kind of just pinching ourselves. It's become something that I never dreamt of.
I like that you said that. I remember even when I came in, 8 years ago, you hate the banquet, the award gala.
Yeah.
Puck's always giving me shit because I'm
a
using the wrong
banquet
word.
sounds pretty cheap, dude. A banquet's
it's not a banquet. Well, the first one was a banquet.
Yeah, it was.
Now it's a full-on award gala. But just in the last 7 years, how far it's come. Mm-hmm. And for you, we were doing a Top Golf event, and now we're throwing award banquets. And
handing out
hangers,
handing out trucks
and cars. And so something I think that would be interesting for people to hear, and I think this is such a big part of the money game. You've built this career. You initially started because you wanted the outcome of a dentist. You really quickly created the income that a dentist creates, and you really quickly double, triple, 5x what a dentist will make. At some point, you hear this, you've got the cars you want, you've got the home you want, you have the investment, discretionary income you want. What keeps you hungry? What have you pivoted to now? I think people start to lose themselves because I was at a conference this week and they say there was a bunch of guys who had exited their companies, made a bundle of money. Yeah. And the message that they all kept saying is when you exit, it's not what you think it is. Yeah. You're gonna want something back. Yeah. So for you right now, I mean, you've basically exited without having to take any liability a couple times now. Yeah. What is keeping you moving? Because you're still grinding. Yeah.
I heard it explained, I think the same billionaire I was talking about, he just said, have you ever noticed how people, when they go win an Academy Award or an award, they're terrible because they never dreamt that far, right? And then they just kind of trip over their words and everything. And you have to continue to reinvent your why. I've heard people say a bag of whys, or continue to raise your sights. But my why and what keeps me super hungry is impact. And impact.
It's a good name for an organization.
Yeah, good name for it. But it's how many people and how many lives can I have an impact on, and the legacy. You start thinking about, I've been doing this 19 years. I'm only 41 or whatever, but how many people are out there who I haven't met yet, who their lives can absolutely change if we bring them into our organization, show them the skill set, and just have a massive impact. For example, the thing I'm most proud of, just last year, our group raised almost $500,000. We provided Christmas for 7,000 refugee kids. 7,000. We went down to Mexico, built 50 homes, for people. And like, dude, we're in tears. Like Asael, he's one of our homies, and he hadn't been back for 30 years.
Visited his home.
Visited his actual home, and he's just like in tears. I'm with him, but we literally are just, hey, you know how you didn't have a home, family? We just built one. Here's the keys to the house. And just seeing the tears in their eyes, and that's impact. That's why we do this job. But another billionaire told me this, and I hate like name dropping, but these are just mentors in my life. He said, here's how money is just an indicator of how many lives you've blessed and how many people you've helped. And I think that's a good way to look at it. Like happiness is, the definition of happiness for me is helping others be happy. And so for me, I feel like I have a responsibility and an opportunity to help a lot of other people earn what I've earned and experience what I've experienced and have an impact in society and give back like we've been able to do in Triumph. And there's nothing more gratifying to me than being like, at the end of the day, saying, I told you so. Like, you took a leap of faith. You kind of, you went an unorthodox route, but look, now here's a car. Now you have real estate. Now you have a family. And I mean, it's been great watching you grow over the years. You now have a couple kids and you have, real estate, you're blowing up. And it's just, I remember like it was yesterday, talking to you about coming working with us, because you already committed to another company. And so just the whole circle and the whole process, I just love it. And having that insatiable appetite where you're never complacent, you're never content, because there's something bigger that we're doing this for. It's not, money doesn't get you up in the morning.
No, it's true. You really do. You hit a mark, and like, you drive nicer cones, you have a nicer home, whatever. But at the end of the day, like there's bigger needle movers in life. And I think you see the people, some of your mentors, you talk about Todd Peterson, right? Like, there's nothing that he's doing today that he couldn't do when Blackstone first acquired.
That's right.
Like, it didn't matter to go grind another 5-10 years. And so it's like, I want to hear some of your thoughts. You got to be around somebody and build your vision and your umbrella underneath one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the state of Utah and possibly in the country.
Yeah. Maybe in the history of the state of Utah.
In one of the top 100 in the country, right? Like, he's legit to build 2 multi-billion public exits. He's part of all these different public exits in Utah right now. But how has that exposure like developed you and changed the way you think forward and dream for your organization?
Yeah, I mean, I would attribute, as far as giving back to people, like, I learned that from him. I learned how to compete from him. I remember, I'll tell you a cool story I learned from him about teaching me how to compete. Yeah. So we were at the 1-inch yard line getting acquired from like 4 different companies. I can talk about it now, but like Comcast almost bought us, SoftBank almost purchased us, Bosch almost bought us, but Google was a big deal. And we're like, dude, if we got bought by Google, they have so much money. They said they kind of wanted just like an unassuming kid, not like whatever. They're like, Puck, we want you to come present to them. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like nerve-wracking. There's billions of dollars on the line. And I remember right before I was outside of the boardroom with Todd, and he could see it in my eyes. I was nervous as crap. And he said, Puck, I need you to look me in the eyes. He said, they need us more than we need them. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. He's like, it's 100% confidence in there. It's 100% confidence. They need us. And he just instilled this, like, he transferred this confidence in me and this just like assurance of like, I'm going to go dominate this. And so we had him eating out of the palm of our hand. Like, we're cracking jokes. And what was so crazy is he's like, well, show me kind of your tools that you have to sell. I'm like, yeah, before we knock a door, we can see all of the information of a customer, like, their income level, their whatever they prefer,
internet usage,
everything, their political, everything. And so he's like, well, can you look at my home in like Silicon Valley? So I'm like, yeah, I'm like looking at all this. I'm like, do you have a pool? He's like, what the crap? And he's like, are you a Jewish? Are you from is that your religion? He's like, what? And it was so crazy. I was like, the Google guy is getting Googled pretty much. He's like, you provided this for everyone, but he just was like so blown away. But I just remember Todd teaching me how to have confidence, and I was so grateful for that. He's taught me how to give back, and I'm so grateful for that. And then he's competitive. Yeah. He taught me how to compete. And there's not a more competitive environment than Vivint. It's meritocracy there, and whoever does the most makes the most. And it's like, I have people every year like, oh, how do I get a free car handed out to me? It's like, oh, it's the guys that did the most.
Yeah.
And the cream has risen. And so I mean, I owe a lot to Todd, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like teaching me how to compete, teaching me how to give back, teaching me how to have confidence when it matters most and not choking or whatever. Like those are things I'll be forever indebted to him.
I just think it's something that I think so many people don't realize, and it's something when I'm sitting down with kids and just the relationship that we have, right? It's so non-typical for somebody in my position. We're growing and developing the company to have as many interactions with a partner in a multi-million-dollar company as I do on a daily basis, and the relationship that we have. And I just don't think people, especially young people, understand exposure is such a huge weapon in your life. Like you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And if you get around people doing bigger things, thinking, and the conversations, how fast I've been able to start investing and do different things is such a testament to the program Vivint runs, to you guys, the leadership, Casey, but all the OGs, Todd. It's a game changer to push your beliefs, but we get so like sucked into these routes of, well, I'll wait until I get around the right room. Yeah, no,
I would say the majority of our success in life is determinant on who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
If you want to get in better shape, like we'll look around, we always hear it, you're a product of the 5 people you surround yourself with, but like in every walk of life. And it's in the money game, right?
Yep. Especially in the money game.
Yep.
In fitness, faith, everything. Yep. And I think it's something, I hear it all the time. I'll say something to one of my reps and I'm like, dude, where do you learn this stuff? I'm like, look, dude, it's all out there. A lot of it's just math. A lot of it's just ideas that you've just never been exposed to, and the way you think about, time versus money, talent versus money, efficacy, and just how you can earn and then how you can multiply. And so I want to pivot because I know you have some very like finite financial principles that you live by.
Let's chat about this.
What's your saying that you always say? More, you want to be a cowboy with more cattle, less hat?
Yeah. You look at right now, I think social media, for the most part, it's a lot of lies. People are like it's flexing about money they're not making, trying to impress people they don't know. And it's like usually people that don't say they have. And usually
that's pretty quiet.
Usually that people say they have money, they usually don't. That's just from what I've experienced. Yeah. And so, who would you rather be? It's the millionaire next door, right? Who would you rather be? The dude that has a huge cattle hat, or cowboy hat, saying I'm worth all this, and then it comes to find out the dude's in jail a year later, or he's bankrupt, or it was just all a facade. Or you meet the guy, it's like, dude, he wears humble clothing, drives humble vehicles. Oh, he's worth 9 figures, 10 figures. For me, that's more impressive. And I have nice vehicles, and I'm building a nice home, etc. But like, I haven't had debt since 2012, with the exception of rental properties. And so like I paid my home off, and there's people that said, don't pay it off. I'm like, well, I would rather earn interest than pay it. Yeah. And I remember when I bought my first home, I would look at the interest that I was paying. And like, how it is, like an amortization. Yeah. Most of your money is just going to interest that you had to borrow. And that just like ate at me. It was almost like a game. I'm like, I'm going to pay this sucker off. I don't want to pay $800,000 for a $400,000 home over 30 years. I want to pay this sucker off. And now I paid it off, and people told me not to, but I slept really good knowing I had zero debt.
I think it's funny because I've had people on the show, and myself included, I'm pretty like leverage. I like to deploy dollars and do different things, but I love, and I wanted you to say that because I want that opinion. And I want people to know, like, there's so many ways to get to a destination. Yeah. And some of it, I love that, you are a little more conservative in your risk profile. Yep. But here you are at 40, like, you're making multiple 7 figures a year. Like, the house is paid for. You're about to build a pretty badass house.
Which will be paid cash, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, it didn't impede you. And so there's just, I think there's a piece that a lot of people, especially as they get into investing, as they get into multiplying their wealth, they forget about the return on piece.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot to be paid for return on the mental capacity, if that's like what helps you sleep at night so you can go hard.
Yeah. Well, there's people like, oh, I'm pretty courageous. I'm brave. I like to gamble. And for me, it's like, dude, I'll gamble. I'm young and I don't, whatever. And I understand that. But for me, it's like, dude, I've brought my family out year after year in locations, grinding. And I'm like, dude, I've made a lot of sacrifices. I've shoveled manure for a really long time. And a few things I'm not going to gamble is, ever like, hopefully not like holding my breath, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, I need this deal and this deal and this deal and this deal to work perfectly because I'm over leveraged. What I like about leveraging is, back to Hormozy, if I can put 1% of my effort here but still grow wealth. And so I'm more to the leverage your time.
Yeah.
I'll put, for me, it's like I'm not maybe the smartest man with all these like financial literacy and investments, but I know people that are. So I got a real estate guy. I give him money. He finds the deals for me. I have a wealth planner, and it's like I give him the money. He makes my money grow. And I just do what you do best, outsource the rest. But I don't have to have like this deal.
I want to highlight
well
that for a sec because I think too many people miss that. I had this conversation with another friend the other day. He was saying, what should I do? What should I do? I'm like, dude, until you're making $250K a year, like every dollar should be how to make $250K a year. That's
true.
And then worry about it.
That's right.
Because you're not good enough that if shit does hit the fan, that you can go like resupply yourself.
Yep.
If your skill set is in $250K a year, like you're pretty mediocre. Like, I'm sorry, and some people are going to be offended by that, but like there's a lot of ways and there's a lot of people who are talented enough. There's a lot of skills available where you can create that income.
That's right.
And then if you hone in, and obviously it's worked out.
Yeah.
20 years of you honing in on a skill set has made an incredibly lucrative skill set where you now have the ability to go deploy and use experts in other skills.
Yeah.
And that's a very valuable use of resources.
Yeah. So I think Kiyosaki says, here's how you measure wealth. How long could you go without doing what you do? So let's say whatever. How long could you live without having any money come in? Like how long could you last?
That's real
A
wealth.
week?
Yeah.
A month? A year? And it's like, for me, the order of like getting sexy with investments would be pay off all your debt for me and then go get sexy later. But, let's do things in wisdom and order.
There is an order of operations to money.
Yeah.
And I think in our space, I actually want to talk about this because you have the most exposure to this. I see it a little bit. My organization's obviously a piece of yours. You've been doing this 20 years now. As you've seen people start to make money, you've obviously been incredibly disciplined, but you know that there's been a lot of lack of frugality. There's been a lot of like wild, brazen attempts. What have you noticed as you see people from a ability to continue to create success, the ones that are a little bit more frugal versus just the flex strapped to the line?
Yeah. So there's a saying that says money accelerates who you already are, right? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of, this is what's harder.
Have you noticed any patterns when you see like a rep start to outspend? Because you know what they're making to the dollar. Like,
people like to spend today what they have coming in tomorrow. And I just, for me, it's like, don't spend a nickel that you don't already have. You couldn't pay for it 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then like, well, what if I can afford 10 big screen TVs? Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And so I don't know, man. Like maybe it's my confidence. Maybe I'm overconfident, but I don't need to like spend money to impress others or like try to have self-worth or whatever. But I do also believe in rewarding yourself. I remember like my father-in-law who like was the one trying to say, aren't you going to be a dentist? He took me to like a hot tub trade show once and he's like, let's go look at this. I'm like, really? I'm like, all right, whatever. And he's like, Puck, you should buy this. I'm like, why? I'm like, and he's like, you should buy it. You need to reward yourself. I'm like, all right, but this guy has like hundreds of thousands of acres and just like, he's the guy with the small hat, mini cattle type of guy. I'm like, all right, but you got to reward yourself. So I think it's work hard, play hard, but not at the risk or detriment of your loved ones or your portfolio or what you like. We didn't come this far to just come, we didn't come this far to just come this far. And like, what is like the end goal? My end goal isn't to like wear really nice clothing or have a shiny car. It's to have massive impact and leave generational wealth and be able to like, I'm so glad that you went all in, that you were able to donate to this or be able to pay for this or be able to like give back to this many human beings. But when this is all said and done, I'd love to have, us making, donating more than 7 figures a year of just like, because we can.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
You brought up an interesting point. I think this is something that needs to be spoken to the younger generation. You're now, how old are you?
41.
41. At this age, it probably feels like it went by like this.
Yeah.
And obviously, dude, you're still freaking young. You still get out there and try to hoop when my team's destroying 3v3.
Yeah. I'm usually the fourth man on the 3-on-3
Yeah,
team.
he's trash, but he's a good coach.
Yeah.
Good hype man.
I there's something to be said about that.
I want you to speak to young people coming into kind of like the prime, like initiating their careers, and they're looking, because my lens has changed so much, and I've seen a ton of success in life and been exposed to a lot of people, and I'm super guilty of like, how do I speed this up?
Yeah.
But then I get to sit with people in their 40 and their 50, and it's everyone I know who's really wealthy and also very like sustainable. They did it over time.
That's right.
So just give a little bit, speak to the person they're just trying to like freaking hockey stick it.
Yeah.
And how does somebody just mentally lock into, there is a time aspect?
Yeah. Well, I would say, you can learn from your own mistakes, or you can learn from other people's mistakes. And who do you really want to be like? And there's, in like Ivy League schools, they do case studies. Well, it's like, well, how did this person become wealthy? They probably stayed the course year in, year out for like what we just talked about, 20, 30 years. And if it's the get rich quick, the shortcuts, they don't exist. Too good to be true opportunities don't exist. And it's the boring investments. So real estate, why it's so great is appreciation. And there's tax, but it's boring. Yeah. And like Todd Peterson told me, he's like, here's what the type of investments I like for you ADD kids. I like the boring ones.
You are ADD.
The ones that are illiquid.
Yeah.
And illiquid, it's like, well, I want cash, I want money. He said, that's BS. Everyone thinks they're going to like use all this cash because their investments are liquid and then go invest it. And he's like, that's not true. We spend what we have. And so I'm a big believer of out of sight,
tied up,
out of mind, right? And so tie up your money, forget about it. And it's like, oh yeah, when you get the dividends coming in or the returns, it's like, I forgot I even had that. Yeah. That's great. And so my advice for, no one likes this word, but be patient. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just do, if you want to become a millionaire, then go find a millionaire who's a mentor, and just say, how did you do that? And just rinse and repeat. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And surround yourself. Like I was surrounded by like pre-dental nerds who had no advice, but go surround yourself with, and I was one of them, right? Go surround yourself with people that are entrepreneurs, that are like-minded, the Todd Petersons, like all these very, very competitive, hyper-competitive, hyper-disciplined, very, entrepreneurial, like-minded people, and you'll become one.
I think it's. I don't know if you've ever heard Ed Mylett talks about this, and I feel like the longer you're in the game and the more you study business, the more and more you realize how true it is. He says, I have a lot of friends that were once rich than I have that are still rich.
That's interesting.
And it's interesting just because exactly what you said. I think it's so human nature for anyone to step, and then roll.
Yeah.
And want to do stuff even though it's been working, and eliminate the compound interest. They want to go hit grand slams all of a sudden when base hits have built a career. That's a Hall of Fame career.
Yep.
And so I think it's interesting that you say that, because it is true. It's a lot harder to end wealthy than it is to be rich for a moment.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people have the I'll be happy when mentality. Once I do this, once I do that. But what they do is it's like they forget that the joy is in the journey and in the grind, because it's like, all right, I made $1 million. Now I'm going to go retire, or I can't wait to go retire. There's nothing fun in my mind about retiring. Am I going to pickleball and golf all day? I love pickleball. I love golf. I'm not very good at probably either of them. I'm better than you at both, and I'm just messing.
No, golf for sure.
Pickleball, it's competitive, and I'm just messing with you. But I don't think there's anything that gives me more energy. I think we're wired. There's something spiritual you'll hear people say about work and grinding and creating. I think we're designed to create and build. And I love scaling and just there's never going to be a point where it's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to have to get peeled off of, whatever. It's like, well, how much longer are you going to do what you're doing? Well, when there's oil coming out of the ground, when you're having massive impact with people, why would I ever leave? how is there another, exotic island that's going to be better than what I have? For me, in my mind, I'm like, I'm pinching myself, but it's been discipline all in and year out. And I never even dreamt this big, which most of us don't. But yeah, I think those that just go take a victory, we're in a society of victory lap.
Yeah.
It's like, well, look what I did last year, last month, last week. It's like, well, you're only as good as your last meal. What are you doing today? Everyone likes
for me lately.
Everyone likes to point to the scoreboard of last year or a couple years ago. What does the scoreboard say today? And that's what's exhilarating about building and creating wealth and just building a business. You are only as good as your last meal, and it's a very what have you done for me lately type of industry, and every day you start at zero.
That is cool. I do want to just in close and pivot for a sec, because this is something I do want to get some of your insights on. I think it's important for people to hear. I've studied a lot of entrepreneurs, I've studied a lot of business people, and the one thing, regardless of the success, that I always look at as well is, did they keep the original spouse? And are they still in good relationship with their children? And it's so fascinating how many people built incredible businesses or careers or just pure financial success, but lost multiple spouses along the way, and now have it figured out.
Yeah.
I know you're obviously still married. You have kids. I've met your family. You have an amazing family. As you've gone through this journey and you've kept your family together, obviously, like, money does impact these things. Now your kids are growing up in a situation where, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a little different than what you grew up as a kid.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
What are the things that you're doing now and like in your home and the conversation that your family have about what does dad do and the resources that are there? Like, what's the mentality in the home on that?
Yeah, it's a great question, dude. And like, I'm sympathetic to anyone that's been, through a divorce or whatever. You would never wish that upon anyone. No one sets out, getting married to get a divorce or whatever. But I think a saying that I've heard, I think it's Covey, but the main thing is to keep the main thing, and not forgetting who you are, not forgetting where you came from, not forgetting the most important things. For me, if I was worth, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, billions, but lost what's most precious and valuable to me, like what's the point? Yeah, what's the point? And so I think just honing in on that. But how do I raise my kids? I try to raise my people to be...
It's a loaded question, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot there.
I try to raise them to be kind.
Yeah.
And I try to make them realize not everyone is in the same walk of life. Not, there's people that struggle. And so we brought our family out to Costa Rica where we built homes, and like gave back to a school, and they're like, holy cow, Dad. I remember one of my kids like, holy cow, that kid that we helped at their school, they're selling like these little wooden toy giraffes like on the beach when we were on the beach. I'm like, yeah, that's a kid that we just went and had impact. I have them just give back. And really, like, when you're focused on self, marriage advice would be like, you're going down a bad path. It's like you need to give back, and you need to think of the best interest of your spouse and your kids. And when you're giving to each other, then it's like something beautiful happens. But when you're just focused on me, there's never, ever like any joy in that. There's never any joy in that. And I think that's where people forget about it. And so just serving and helping others be happy is probably a good formula in a family, in business, and in life.
Yeah. I like that. I know you and I have talked about this. I think it's interesting. I grew up in a home that was very, very open about finances, just real and robust.
But they still had you work.
I grinded,
which I love.
I had to work.
Which I'll tip the cap to Steve-O, your dad, because like Steve-O's very well off individual, and he's raised a great son, and I'm sure he's really proud of you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I guess just question for you, because obviously I've got two little girls. I got a 2-year-old now, and these are things that are starting to be a part of my world. Like, how do I make sure my kids understand the world is open, but nothing's free?
Yeah, I would just, this is a quote that I love, but it's just, there's no success outside the home that can compensate for failure inside the home. And so if you can just, you would never want to ask your kids or in leadership to do anything that you're not willing to do. Yeah. It's like, don't watch TV and be boring. And then you're like, you're watching TV, or get off the screen time and you're on your phone. Yeah. And I think I think just putting your children in situations intentionally that they're uncomfortable, you know, health-wise, sports-wise, work-wise. And it's like, guess what? You chose to be uncomfortable now so you can be comfortable financially or whatever, well off later. Yeah. And those that just choose the path of least resistance every single time, they're going to end up not getting what they want.
No, I agree. I think it's so interesting is just seeing where myself and some of my siblings and just people in a lot of different situations have gone, and super grateful for all the exposure I got, but also incredibly grateful that I was told none of this is yours.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. And we've both built careers maybe in the most rigorous, gritty way to create. We're just knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy what you can do and what you can develop financially, spiritually, emotionally, resilience-wise, when you just have to go earn your worth.
Yeah. My little boy, he's like, Dad, he's 10. He's like, Dad, I want to knock doors for you. I want to come knock doors. And he's
Are you going to have all your kids knock?
Yeah. You know, I have 3 daughters and 1 son, but yeah, absolutely. I think learning the skill set that you learn and the fears you overcome, and just like the light bulb that went on when I went from pre-dental to like, holy cow, I made a month of waiter money in one day, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, the skills that you learn, it's unbelievable on the doors. And it's cool to look at billionaires who started door-to-door cold calling, because if you can do that, you can do anything. If you can sell to someone that doesn't want you on their doorstep.
I had no idea you were coming.
Yeah, they weren't praying that morning, please send me a door-to-door guy or whatever, but you can,
an alarm system.
You can still find a solution and a win for them. Like, you're going to be able to have a massive impact in society and do great things. I
love it. Well, dude, just in closing, it's been great. I know obviously a lot of people take a lot of stuff from this, and it's good to just chop it up.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I've been a fan of the money game. I'm glad we're here in the studio in the flesh, so thanks for having me.
No, it's been great. Any just closing thoughts for the audience? Anything you'd give them? Life advice or financial?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, I remember 2020, like I've only lost money in too good to be true scenarios. And so like in NFTs and I think crypto, I was buying listen, I wanted to short NFTs. I was like, I hope this is a hoax, but we had people like, you know what, this might be my career, buying like digital art and flipping it and whatever. And I'm like, this seems too good to be true. I hope I'm wrong. But I put in, you know, 50 grand and went and learned and figured it out. And I'm like, I am so glad that tanked. And whenever you invest, if it's too good to be true, you're probably going to get smoked. I put more money in this Pulse thing or whatever, but I did it because everyone was doing it. And so like paid a price to learn, and like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much information on podcasts and books. It's like the boring base hits is usually going to result in the most. If you're swinging for the fences every single time, you're going to get a lot more L's than you get W's. Those are losses and wins. But like, there's people I talk to, like, I never gamble. I used to gamble, but I haven't gambled in, 15 years. But I can say, guess what? I haven't lost in 15 years. And there's people that say, oh, I never lose. Well, I'm up or I'm down. It's like, well, guess what? I will not lose, because there's just certain things that are traps. Yeah. And they suck you in. And the simple confounds the wise. When you're consistent over a long period of time, you'll be pinching yourself looking back like, holy cow, like, I can't believe it's true. It's been right. And it's served me really well, and it hasn't served me wrong so far. And just stay the course. I love it. Well, I respect the hell out of you. You've built an incredible career that I am chasing, and it's been a lot of fun to get to work with you the last 8 years. For all you guys that are watching, Puck literally has no social media. So if you want to get exposure to him, you're going to have to come work for him. That's right. It's really the only way. Let's go. But he's one of those people that you do need to get access to. If you guys have any questions, obviously, feel free to reach out to us. We love talking about our industry. We love talking about what Puck's building, and we love the impact. For all you guys, we'll catch you next time on The Money Game. Let's go. Appreciate it. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media. Real money. Real money. Money is the answer. Y'all be cool. And we'll see you next time on The Money Game. Money. Yes!